meeting order, 7:01, please join me. Pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good enough. All right, assuming everybody had time to review last week's meeting minutes. There's no objections. All those in favor of approving last month's meeting minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay, so passed. All right, any public comment? None. Okay, we'll move right into staff reports. Ryan.
Thank you. Just a quick overview. You have in front of you a copy of our winter spring program updates. Several of our programs have filled for the summer so far. Our Little Athletics program, which is a multi-sport program for ages 2 through 6, has maxed out at 24 participants. That's one instructor per 8. Our tennis lessons have started to grow a little bit. We are about 21 participants in that, ages 7 through 16. Mighty Kick Soccer is ever popular, and we've actually added additional instructors to have more capacity in those programs, which is why you see those numbers higher in the 33 and 21 numbers for the ages 4 through 7. Want to put in perspective, and we'll talk a little bit about our bunny hop for our event debrief, but we did do pre-registration for the free traditional egg hunt portion of the event we brought back this year. By ages, those are the numbers that pre-registered. With the weather and the date change, we did have some on-site registrations as well that I don't have those numbers in front of you at the moment, but we will have them compiled for a total attendance number. With switching to the rain date, it was still a well-attended event that we'll talk about in a little bit. Our summer camp and CIT, our counselor and training programs, our summer camp as of today is officially full. All 3 sites have 125 participants, ages 7 through 13. And our counselor and training program, one of our sites is filled, veterans with 10 counselors, Jandal following up with 7, and Fogelsville with 4. That counselor and training program is very particular to us in that that is for 13 to 15-year-olds. That is individuals who, at this point, with it being our 4th year of summer camp, have most likely participated in the summer camp and now want to go between being a participant to what's it going to be like to be a counselor or a site leader. We view it as a pipeline to future instructors and retention purposes to be able to have those who have been through the camp and also have been around for a while to know how we do things, know what we expect, and then also with being up from Country Township residents for the most part, leading our next round of summer camp. Emily has done a fantastic job with the summer camp hiring process to date. We are in the process of handing out our conditional offer letters to a majority of the staff, including the new position that we added this year of summer camp coordinator, which is a individual who will oversee the day-to-day oversight of the 3 site leads, 3 assistant site leads, and dealing with parent interactions and logistics of the summer camp. What that's going to do and why that's important is it's going to free Emily up to do a lot more program thought for the entire year, more time on the advertising and promotion, more time on some of the other bigger items that we have coming down the pike, rather than being the person going out to every single site every day, checking in and doing all of that. You're also going to see individuals who are registered for the summer camp will start to get emails about reminders about payment balances due, last minute paperwork that needs to be filled out before summer camp starts, and then also introducing them to some new elements that we're doing this year. Emily did a great job working with some outside partners and resources that we are going to have a limited opportunity for approximately 30 campers per site to sign up and pay for offsite field trips. The payment covers the cost of things like tickets to where they're going and the transportation costs, because it would be busing that we're getting. She got some very favorable quotes, trying to keep it between $45 and $50 for those field trips. And they're not open to the public. They're only open to individuals who are signed up in the summer camp at those sites. I won't give away exactly where all the places are because I want those participants to get those when that email comes out. But it is a diverse lineup of where they would be going. Also, camp will take place when those field trips are going off site. So there's still, it's not the day shuts down because we're going on a field trip. There's options for the other campers, and she has added more on-site visitors coming to the campsites. It could be environmental education with wildlands or our river, our Lehigh Valley water stewards. I'm messing the name up, but get the idea. Sports groups, other activities that the kids love, arts and crafts, cone ice, things like that. So we are building upon what the campers are going to be doing at the camp, and it's setting us apart from what other camps do. Zumba, ever popular with our instructor. Donna has been doing a fantastic job. This is, I think, her third session that is completely full, so we're excited about that. And to date, our youth fishing derby coming up on May 3rd has 19 registrations already. That's an overview of the programs. Just a debrief real quick about Bunny Hop. The weather was very interesting with us and a lot of rain last week, so we did have to move the location and date of the event. Originally scheduled for Lone Lane on a Saturday, moved to Grange Park on a Sunday. The move to Grange Park is probably a good one based on volume of the event. Parking, definitely, a lot of parking lots were filled up. Jim and our public works team has done, I think we've come to a standardized kind of footprint for big scale events at Grange. So we know the repetition now, what to expect, how to set things up. Safety factors, for example, while we did allow parking in one side of the parking lots, on the backside towards the rec field and basketball courts, the main road itself was blocked off between the entrances of the parking lot, so you could safely walk from the parking lot to the event footprint. So that's something we're being more cognizant of when we're planning out event spaces and helping individuals get back and forth from cars to the event. So I just wanted to acknowledge that because we had done that at Winterfest and we did it at Bunny Hop. It was very successful. The Bunny Hop itself, many of the vendors were still available, food vendors, beverage vendors. We were down one face painter and still had a good flow with the one we had, still had photography. The egg hunt portion was fantastic. We did a great job with our DJ and helping wrangle those egg goers before they went and got eggs. It wasn't a free-for-all. And Jim team did a great job highlighting too our sponsorship banners using pallets as a backing that kind of broke up the space. So it wasn't just here's an open field and go run free. There were areas to kind of bottleneck a little bit or hide some eggs behind pallets, which was a pretty cool feature. And this afternoon, Emily posted on our social media some of the pictures of the event. Cold and windy, but a great time. So we're hoping to continue to do that again next year. And any and all suggestions are welcome or feedback about the event. We'd love to hear. Our next upcoming events are Youth Fishing Derby on May 3rd from 9 to 11 a.m. at the ponds at Apple Park. And then we follow that up with our first event of our Movie in the Park series with Toy Story 4 on May 9th at 5:30 at Russet Road / K-Brook Green Hills Park. That we, like I said, starts at 5:30 and we'll start sending out the timeline of ribbon cuttings and logistics of what's going to be happening. We have a lot of our sponsors, our vendors. We have a good setup and an exciting event to kick off the summer.
All right, thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Moving on.
I just want to bring up, are we stocking the ponds for
From what I read, yes.
restocking?
Yes.
You know what this is?
It said bluegill, and I forget the other one that was listed.
I'm questioning because I had some people ask
About trout.
I want to explain that the
Yep.
pond is not ideal for trout. So
Okay.
that comes up. I just wanted to bring that up.
Not a problem.
So we stocking as a township or the state?
We supply the fish from somewhere else, and they bring it in and stock it. We don't. Emily and I are grabbing fish and dropping them in.
Oh, that'd be funny to see. Gotcha. Okay. Moving on, old business. Winter bathroom options.
Yep, just a couple items to stay on here as old business. Just let the board know we're continuing to look at them and move them forward. Winter bathroom options, we're taking a look at pricing. We're keeping it on our radar for budgeting purposes for 2026. We're also talking to a lot of what other places do. So, for example, this morning I was over at Northampton County at a roundtable for an event, and they talked to me about some of the things they do. What they mentioned, similar to what we're thinking, is they close their structured bathrooms and they put out porta potties between late October and end of March. They don't do it at every park. They do it at their high traffic locations. So it's a good resource to have, and we're going to continue to ask a couple other municipalities how they do it, so we're in line with those kind of best practices.
Sounds good. Moving along. Lehigh Valley Cricket Club.
Yep. So talked to Dr. Singh this afternoon. Scott and I are going to meet with them on Monday morning to walk the rec field area that we are identifying and coming up with the solutions for the, I'll call it pitch area because I'm not a master in cricket, and keep moving forward towards Upper Macungie being a home for them for their spring through fall season. Requests have been in. We're going through the certificate of insurance, all that kind of stuff. So we continue to be in communication to move that forward.
Awesome. SPYA projects.
If you've been over at Grange, you may have noticed that you do see some snow fencing and some holes in the ground. The two projects, the wall projects and the sports lighting project. The sports lighting project predates me by a couple of years. It's coming to fruition over on the bypass side of Grange Park, where typically field hockey and soccer are played. Gone through the permitting process and are in the projects themselves are in process right now.
Awesome.
One that wasn't on here that I want to highlight just for usage of the township that got completed today is the other lit fields that are currently at Grange Park, the ones that are typically where we have our special events and lacrosse and flag football play. We've had an additional 2 or 3 groups ask for use of lights. And up until today, the current setup was you'd have to go inside a building and get them turned on, which requires either township staff or coordination with SPYA to gain access to the inside of a building, which also has other equipment and materials in it. In talking with Jim and Scott and their public works team, we want to come up with a solution to still allow use of those lights, because in the fee schedule, we do allow for use of lights, paid for a fee to use the lights, but we don't want people in and out of the building. So the on-off switches were moved to the outside of the building in a locked panel with a combination lock that we can control and access. So if there's a group that does rent them, we can facilitate that. So I want to highlight how our team is moving forward on items and suggestions that have been brought to us and have an impact on how we use our facilities.
As my understanding is that building has a keypad lock.
And there are other items. So even if you were to get into it, say, for example, the golf cart that's in there, if I give you the key and you're an outside group, nothing would currently stop you from riding off on a golf cart. Whereas now the switches that you only need access to a set of lights is outside the building. I would give you a unique combination. You can turn the lights on when you need to, turn them off when you need to, and when you're done, we can reset a code for the next group to come in.
That's cool. Tennis court follow-up?
So last month I had presented that I had spoke with United States Tennis Association, Middle States Association, who gave a little bit of feedback on their grant kind of programs for rehabilitation of tennis courts. Just to go over an overview, and it was even my learning knowledge of the township here. The township has 6 total tennis courts currently in its inventory, 1 at Apple Park, 3 at Blue Barn, and 2 at Rickey. Various states of conditions. Some are, multi-use. There's pickleball in some of them. There's not pickleball in others. So looking at that inventory and looking at what is available, the highlights I wanted to point out from what I gave you last month from the United States Tennis Association is a couple things. One, it's a 50% grant, which means we would have to figure out the other 50% of whatever the project total would be. So it's not 100%, doesn't encompass covering every upgrade. What it does cover is court striping, resurfacing, kind of crack sealing, fencing, lighting, all the aspects that you would need to upgrade a facility. But again, it does not cover 100%. In conversation, and for clarity purposes, that I will continue to follow up with that organization, I am of the understanding that if you use that grant funding, the facility must remain for tennis only. So it would not allow for an opportunity of upgrading tennis courts and also adding pickleball lines. So I just want to be upfront, and not that money has strings attached, but there are terms and conditions, and that would be one of them. Is it would have to be solely tennis.
And pickleball can be played on a tennis court, right? Not
Correct.
the other way around.
Not the other way around.
How many pickleball courts do you currently have?
12. We have 12 dedicated pickleball courts. And I think I have to get back to you on which ones are multi-striped. But we have a dedicated 12 court pickleball facility at Grange Park.
And then 6 tennis courts, right?
6 tennis courts.
Plus 2 locations?
3.
Ricky Park resident?
Yep, just Matthew brought this up to us, and that just noting that resident has had communication with the township to understand their concerns and ideas and concepts. They've also mentioned some ideas for the park itself that have also been passed along or shared, that we are in this comprehensive park rec open space plan process, and we're also coming up with those ideas and concepts through that as well. So,
Pet Supply Little Free Library project from last month's meeting.
yep. So if you remember, Aleka Smith came last month to present a project here to the Park and Rec Board about a pet supply and food idea at Route 100 Park, similar to the kind of Little Free Library projects you see pop up in parks or neighborhoods. The board itself had some concerns about cost, size and scale and scope of the project, what it all would entail, safety and security of various items, concern about it being a drop-off and just become a pile of various things. So I sat down with Aleka and I met with her about those concerns and see how we can, and another one was monitoring who was responsible for checking on supplies, restocking, things like that. In our discussions and communication, she's scaled down the scope of it a little bit, that rather than have her come back out, I figured I can convey to the board. First question was about concrete. It was about cost. What was the cost going to be to the township? The item itself is similar to a large mailbox. So when you're looking at concrete or holding a structure in, approximately $150 of concrete total. We're not talking the pad idea that was originally discussed, because that came into security for volunteers of a steel bin or steel box. Number one, can get too hot. Number two, if it's fully solid, you can't see into it. So if you're a volunteer helping and you open a lid and you can't see what's in there, that's a volunteer safety concern. Whereas the elevated little library concept would have heavy duty clear plexiglass so you could see what was in and what wasn't. She has spoken with the sanctuary at Hassville in their ideas and thoughts, and they recommended, number one, to not start with any food whatsoever. Really look more at small scale pet items like a chew toy or a leash or a collar or something like that. Nothing big scale. So I know Jim had mentioned concerns about like dropping off dog beds. She would also work on more clear signage about allowable items and non-allowable items, with the list of non-allowable items with a list of places to drop those things off to. So alternatives. That if you really want to get rid of a big dog crate, can't do it here, but here's the next closest location, or here's the contact to handle that. She has been engaged with Boy Scout and Girl Scout groups to increase the volunteer base. I know one of the concerns was this is a family spearheaded project with family and close friends. What happens, or how do you maintain it more long term? So there's been discussions with various Girl Scout and Boy Scout groups to build upon that volunteer base. And she also mentioned in her latest email to me that if this did not work and say, hey, people aren't dropping off pet supplies, if it was repurposed to be a library, free library like we have at Grange, they're okay with that. I think her driving force is an ability to help other people through this project, and I think she showed that passion to the board last month, and just would like to the excitement of trying to move this forward if we could.
All right. Good to hear. Can you give a timeline?
Nope. I would just say if there's still any feedback from the board about this project, if you want to send it to me, and I'll continue to collaborate with her. And if we're comfortable, we can move it forward.
I think it sounds pretty cool.
We vote on it today, or wait till
It's up to you.
more details?
Is there anything jumping off the top of your mind right now about the updates? I would make the recommendation if you want to allow me to continue to work with her to work on the project. I can continue to do so and report back regularly.
Do we have enough to make a motion to take it to the board of supervisors yet, or we're still missing anything?
I think there's some clarification there because of the scale of the project's a little bit smaller and may not have to go to them. I'm waiting on clarification on that. It's kind of viewed in the aspect of if a Boy Scout or Girl Scout group would do a project, I don't think all of them have gone
Question,
before.
would it be like, it would work for like 1 or 2 years maybe, and then it would just kind of like stop, and then like be there, and then nothing is really going on in it?
So my hope would be that once it starts, it keeps going and stays going. I think, the fact that the dog park is there at Route 100 and is pretty well used, I don't see this being something that goes up and then in a year or two is in shambles or not taken care of. I really think that has been thought through from Aleka's end about being a long-term project. And we've had those discussions very similar, like the ball wall projects or any other project that comes on. We're not looking to do something short-term.
Sounds good. Russ's Road, Haybrook, ribbon cutting event.
So we are working towards building that out to be a very great first movie in the park series for us. Obviously every board member is invited because we will cut a ceremonial ribbon and, maybe you all go down a slide or swing on some swings and, look at what we put into place for that neighborhood, which I think is a great, great design. They had a lot of feedback from the neighborhood itself to get to that point. One thing I have for you here, and it's something that I just want you to see visually that I did not have last month for you. And I can put it up on the screen if it's easier. So give me a second. I gave everyone a copy, but just for some help here. The discussion was brought up a little bit after the meeting last month about signage, and not to jump into Simone Collins' presentation, but one of the recommendations from the Park and Rec plan that you've already known because the board here was working on it before I got here was about uniformity of signage in our parks. And I know there's been discussion about various entry signs, signage throughout the pavilions, rule signs, things like that. And I know it's a big project. As we've progressed in the Caybrook Green Hill / Russet Road project is coming up with an entryway sign for that park. What I've looked back in our files, I've seen ideas and concepts. I did not see anywhere where something was officially voted on or anything like that. So while we were progressing this project, and a line item in it was signage, I'm trying to work with Fast Signs to come up with a rendering for the entryway to that park. What you see here is a collaboration from Public Works and Recreation to come up with a concept that on the front part of it, number one, is how do we not hit it with a weed whacker or something like that, or maintenance-wise? How do we keep it as low maintenance as possible to work around the signage? Hence the stone at the base of it. And then the upper part where the actual logo, name, and road, and all the other aspects, the color scheme comes out of our branding standards from 2020 for Upper McCutcheon Township. So everything you see, there was a branding guide for the township that those color schemes and logo use and font all come from that branding guide. this is my attempt at a sign, and I wanted to kind of get the feedback of the board. Couple pieces of it. Obviously, number one, it's an Upper McCutcheon Township Park. We need to discuss park names. It gives an address. Sometimes the concern is, if someone's at a location, do they know where they're at? That if there was an emergency or an event, they need to call and contact emergency services. It also has our website and our phone number. So, you're at the park, you see something, and you want to increase engagement with the township, you've got the website and phone number to get a hold of us.
It helps in emergencies.
I'm very much in favor of that.
So I'm open to any and all feedback. I will say I have a little history in this with my previous position and other places, and seeing their branding guide come to fruition, signage. We want something that's going to make us stand out compared to other townships. I've probably seen, North Whitehall's rebranded their signs recently. South Whitehall's done it. Lower Macungie, I've seen two different versions. They're rebranding theirs as well. So it's something that we want to really show what Upper Macungie is and what we can be.
Are all the signs going to be the same size?
The size of the sign would probably depend on the location. So this one, for example, when looking at the footprint of the park and the space between Russet Road and the parking lot, is a lot smaller and narrower than, say, an entryway sign at Grange Park or Route 100 or Lone Lane for that matter. So they are able to be scaled to different sizes.
I think it fits the size of the park, too. Huge sign there, or a smaller park.
Any other feedback about the signage?
I really love the idea of putting the address on there for emergency reasons.
Yeah, I like it. I like that out. Yeah. It's not body, it's nice and clean,
Would it be like a flat painted on, like number, like letters?
It is
kind of thing, or
so the sign itself is 4 inches thick. It's double sided, and it is a firm decal, anti-graffiti, anti-wear, fade.
Ryan, if you don't mind, I was just gonna kind of add to your discussion that the recommendation in the plan does talk about absolutely exactly what you're saying, signage. And what it sort of recommends is, to your point, is the identifying sign to the park, and then start getting to wayfinding to the different amenities that are in the park rules, and some other additional things that would probably be specific to each park. So what I kind of see what would be happening is that you already have a design and the branding, what you're talking about. I think there probably would be a step of determining size of signage and locations for each park to kind of come up with some total of what Upper Macungie would like to see in its park. From identifying at the entrance to wayfinding within to rules and anything else. So it'll be like stages, and as you were saying, the size is based on the size of the park. So a total signage bill, for one park is going to vary from one to the other, and that is something that many places, Smoothie Commons is outside street and do those kinds of things. Not that I'm pushing for more work, I'm just saying that, starting where you are is great, and then you can start then deciding how much after the entrance is.
I didn't know if there was, it's the first time really seeing it. I didn't know if there was any other feedback or time to digest, but it's entirely up to you as a board. Want to make the motion to move forward on it, I can do that as well.
I'm gonna make a motion for the township to move ahead with these signages. All those in favor, the township moving forward with the new signs? Oh, sorry.
No.
Oh, you
Great.
were.
Always be the fun.
Aye. Okay. So moved.
Thank you.
Question, I think it's good, but 4 inches is not that big. It's only like that, right?
The construction of it, those posts on each end are aluminum posts bolted down into the stone fixture.
Posts are 4x4.
Posts are 4x4 as well. Yep.
The sign is not, it's just a post for it.
Oh,
So,
so the sign is bigger than 4 inches.
Yeah, I think it's 48 inches.
48 wide.
Yeah, 48 by 42.
Yeah, I meant
yeah.
the width, the width.
The width of the sign?
Like, I meant like the depth, or I guess.
Yeah, that'd be 4 inches.
Yeah, 4. That's not that big. I guess that's pretty good size.
Okay. Yeah, so,
So I will continue to plan and work for building this out so it goes more than just this one.
I am particularly happy that it's not black.
Would not be putting
black and gold.
Yeah, like I'm tired of seeing everything, little signs and stuff. in black.
as far as branding, I want to make sure we're in line with the overall township. They have a great plan in place for how we, present that logo, whether it's on apparel, whether it's on cups. We're following those standards.
The one at the Brownsville Park is pretty bad too.
There's a lot of signs
Yeah.
to switch over.
At least it has a sign. Going back to movies in the park, that's 4 weeks away, something before our next meeting. Are you going to need anything from the board?
I would love to see you all there.
Okay.
If I will reach out directly if there's any remarks or volunteer needs, as we've done for the other events. I may need someone to spin a prize wheel and hand out lollipops and things like that. I promise it's going to be warmer in May than it is in April.
Well, it's not like rain, so we don't have to worry about the wind. All right. Moving along, the Sand Creek Trail Loop marking.
Matthew brought to our attention just clarifying of the various trail pieces and loop markings, and we're looking into how to work either internally or with some volunteer groups to really mark that out so it's a lot clearer for users. Something that was great to bring to our attention, and we want to make sure we can try to get on it as soon as we can and come up with a solution to clearly identify those spaces.
All right. Any new business? Nothing? What's that? We'll give it to Slim Townsend.
Thank you all. This is the same presentation that we gave at the last public meeting. So public meeting 3 was a presentation of the draft plan, which is exactly what I'm giving to you folks tonight. However, it was the day before we actually posted it to the public on the website to actually see. So there's some examples there, but it is good, I think, to take you all through it. And of course, maybe some of you have already gone through it and seen it. So we would love to take any specific comments from you. But just so you know, the May 6th meeting coming up for the committee is the final committee meeting where they're going to give us all of their comments. So technically, all the things that you might want to see, if you haven't had a chance to spend time with, can certainly be forwarded to us through Matt, the part of the committee, of course. So it's not too late, is basically what I'm saying. So I'll just move through this as quickly as I can, because it's wonderful, right? And I know you've got things to do. So Ryan, if you could just advance from there. Appreciate it. Right, so we're just going to talk about the meeting schedule and kind of concentrate on the chapter 4 recommendations. In fact, I hope you picked one up. If you pick up a separate copy, that will really help us kind of focus on the most important part, I think, of the plan. And we took the public through some of the concepts that are in the plan. Again, they're all in there, and folks can certainly take a look at them. So, but I would like to tell you that we got 8 responses back from the posting of the draft report on the website. I mean, 8 people did leave comments. So I'll wrap that up. That'll be the last thing I'll show you before we go. And the reason we did it that way was a recommendation of Derek Jarika, who was on our team, was to say, okay, here's the link. And right away, give them the opportunity to click on SurveyMonkey and say, what were you happy to see? What were you sad you didn't see? And of all of these recommendations, I forget what the total number is, 30-some, which are the top 5 that you would like to see the Park and Rec Board and the township advance. And they're all by numbers, so you can talk about that. Next slide. Keep going. So our schedule, we'll just give you the responses. So it's the last committee meeting in January, around 10:89. Next slide. We concluded with 11:20. B, Simone Collins, grand prize total for responses to this type of studies, response rates. Congratulations on that. That is fabulous. And it's now closed, of course. So the only survey that's left is your comments on the actual draft report. Next slide.
And just a comment about the public survey, even though it is closed, the township still has access to it. So we have the responses, the data, the open-ended responses to questions. So it's closed and sits with Simone Collins and we don't see it. We still have access, so we can take a look at those at any time we need to about feedback we've gone through the public survey.
And actually, one of the things too, Ryan, that isn't quite posted because we want to make sure we get all the comments in it, but the appendix, the project appendix, and all the stuff you thought that the report was for, the appendix has every single question summarized, so that will be part of public records. Okay, so the link went live on Tuesday, March 18th. Technically, it was a 30-day comment period. And the reason it is we followed DCNR, even though this was funded by the township. They usually have that 30-day public comment. We sent it to all the stakeholders. We got valid, all the people we talked to in the process. And today is the actual 30-day. So we can technically close that public feedback, but I'll leave it open. There's no reason I would need to close it. We will have the committee meeting in Bloom on May the 6th. But we will present the same draft plan to the Board of Supervisors on the 1st. We're anticipating not a lot of comments. And basically what we would like to do is it's the draft until all the comments have come through. We address them, we note it in the appendix when we can present it as a final for the supervisors. We had initially thought we'd do that in June, we moved it up to May. I'm sure there's a lot of things the township has to do. So a little bit of change there. Of course, the Board of Supervisors is a public meeting as well. We have a final public meeting scheduled. Ryan and I are going to talk about that, whether that in fact will happen, but we'll keep the board posted on that. And then we'll publish that, of course, and provide the hard copies and the final copy on the website. Next slide. Some basic pages and examples of what we try to do in the report. So next slide, please. The executive summary. Basically, 3 or 4 pages, and the intent is complete summary, really what you have there for recommendations. Why we did it, what's in the report, and it basically gives any funder an idea of how we spent this last year together and what we came up with and why it's important. In the short versions, it's the Cliff Note version, is the executive summary. The mission statement, the outline, everything we did. Next slide. In chapter 2 is inventory. A lot of what April said, it is dry, right? What do we have? What are the township demographics, soils, farmlands, waterways, what are our open spaces? But I think the graphics are good and clear, and I think it provides that basis of why we are making recommendations that we are. Continuing on inventory, the relevant planning documents, everything the township has done, including that VSAP, and everything that the county has done as well, that influences Upper McCounty. We want to be in line with all of those things, including the comprehensive plan for Upper McCounty, which is dated 2019. Next slide. What else do we have in the report? This was the work of this study. Individual park inventories, all the programming, and then again, all of the public opinion responses. This inventory chapter really forms the basis of where we are going when we do the recommendations. Next slide. An analysis. This chapter, the highlight, I think, is the fact that we dove very deeply because of the growing nature of this township into what you have for open space and how it could possibly be used, and how we as your consultant would recommend the township looking at these possibilities. So for each area that we identified, which are 15, this matrix was done, and again, all 15 will be in the appendix, but it's a great tool, and a blank sheet can be used by the township to assess maybe another parcel that comes up. Basically, everything from the natural resources of the area to the location for neighborhoods, for transportation routes, all the things that would affect whether this is a desirable piece of property, for even just getting control for a trail or whatever. So that analysis and those matrices are a big part of chapter 3. Next page. Yeah, benchmarking. We took time to look at all similar kinds of communities around Upper Lafungi and elsewhere for all kinds of park amenities and courts and playgrounds, how many they had, what was the population they served, so that you can look at this now in 2025, and then in what your expected population would be in 2045. Do you still have enough tennis courts? Do you still have enough swing sets? And so that kind of analysis, and you kind of see from the colors, anywhere in green means you're above, you're at surplus, and where you have red, you're behind. Does that mean you have to quickly catch up? No. Every community, of course, is going to make its own decisions about that, but at least it gives you as the board and the township something to compare themselves against. Next slide. Derek Jariga spent time in his analysis in the efficiency and being very keenly aware of township resources and staff and how programs are run and how wonderful events are run and how much staff and money you have to do those things. That's a good part of the analysis as well as part of our recommendations. Very much the institutional knowledge that sits here and has been such a gift, I think, to this township is the dedication of so many good people. So, next slide. The recommendations, chapter 4, and you have that in front of you, really, in summary. We tried to align this almost like a cookbook. We established 4 visions, the committee did. Under each vision, we have goals and objectives, how we get there. And so each recommendation has its own page where we state on the left-hand side all of those things I mentioned, the vision, the goals, and the objectives, and explain why we are making that recommendation and some specifics on each page. Next slide. Let's go into them quickly. Next slide. Well, before we did that, I think really the premier exhibit in this plan is that effort we did to create this proposed open space, which is what you see in the back as well. So we've classified the open spaces, we've identified what their nature is. They are they using their natural for, are they farmland? Are they owned by the township? Are they in the process of being an agricultural security area? There's an awful lot to the lands that we have here in Upper Lafungi. And this map, I think, does a really, really good job of explaining, the nature of how that works. The open spaces that are related to homeowners associations, the parks themselves, and the farms on the western side. So that's a very important graphic for this report. And we took the next 2 slides really just to blow them up. We took the northern half of the township and we took the southern part. But the dark red areas are the areas that we are recommending that are part of those 15 areas that we're looking at that would be of value, we believe, to the township to have some sort of control over for open space and recreation. Next slide.
So, excuse me. Are you saying these are lands that are owned by the township or should be obtained by the township?
You have to look at the legend themselves because they are identified specifically.
I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, no, probably no text at all. But I think what is important is you'll see that the dark red have circles on them. And those are the 15 areas we described, and they are described in the report and have that matrix associated with them.
Described as?
Described why they were of interest to us as a consultant and should be of interest to the township.
But my question is, are they owned by the township or
No.
lands that the township should look to
Should
purchase?
consider.
Okay. All right. And what about the blue?
so sorry, you think I know this facility, so it's.
Township facilities. The dark blue is current township facilities.
Exactly. It is, I mean, yeah, spend some time, I think, just when you look at it on your way out, just kind of orient. Had to use a lot of colors, and sometimes when you're far away.
I like colors.
Light blue or dark blue makes it a little different, but yeah, absolutely. Next slide. And again, I think once you put a parcel on a map, it makes people nervous, right? And Ryan and I have had discussions about that. And people, say, oh my gosh, you're gonna come after my land. Really, the point of the process is really just highlighting where open space exists that could be of use, right? Could be, it might never. You know, and honestly, to the board, I should say, the board of supervisors might not want all 15 of these shown on this plan for various reasons. That'll be something that they'll make a decision about. So, you know, if this is adopted, this will be up to the township supervisors to say if those 15 parcels actually make the final cut. But we don't want to say that it's not that you want to hoard land. We want them for specific reasons, if for, you know, a trail connection, right? Or to expand something else, blah, blah, blah. So there's other ways you can do it, you know, and have some kinds of controls that help us accomplish these things. And these are the tools that we're discussing in the report. Yeah. The official map being underway right now in Upper Macungie. The map being the township places on that their desired improvements. All of the stuff from the visa, hopefully these lands from the cross report to identify something that they would like to have a seat at the table at for future uses and improvements to the public. Next slide. Great. One of the things I really like that Rob Gladfelter spent time with is really identifying areas and calling them by the names of preserves and greenways, because the goal is to really make those linkages. It's beautiful green ribbons of larger spaces that can provide for trails and accessing longer areas. We heard it over and over again at the public meetings. People like longer stretches, right? They want to be able to bike or to walk and to be able to, you know, make it a longer way. And certainly the county would love to see us try to connect up to the things that are going on. The Jordan Creek Greenway on the other side, so longer areas. So this is what these preserves and greenways, I'll take you through them quickly. Next slide. The Fogelsville Quarry Preserve. So one of the parcels that we're looking at are indicated on our open space plan is that area between the quarries. You'll see, you know, it kind of shows where, you know, 3 years ago we identified a trail that would be really kind of a nice thing to connect into the rest of the town. And then Rob, being a landscape architect, had some great ideas on how we really make this place a really beautiful spot for a trail network, lookouts, an educational center. Your imagination can run wild, but it is a beautiful, beautiful area that runs that park. And calling it a preserve, I think all of these words mean something to people, right? That's the word that came out so clearly in the survey. Aside from wanting the safe pedestrian passages, preservation and protection of open spaces resounded highly in the public. So calling them preserves and living close to a preserve, you take ownership and stewardship of that, and it becomes something to be proud of. There's so much to be proud of in this community, including, I think the signage really is a great step to identify all of these great parks that have had so much great care and attention. Fogelsville Quarry Preserve, so look for that in the report. There's some nice graphics there. Next slide. The next is, of course, just north of that, and it is what we've titled the Hudson Creek Greenway. And there's so much there that already exists that by looping and connecting some of these parcels together, and all of those green dots you can kind of see in the legend are from the VSAP, and they are some are existing and some are proposed from the VSAP, but it doesn't take much to try to start to stretch from the west part of Apple Park over to the eastern park. So that calling it the Greenway, intersecting it there with the Fogelsville Park Preserve, you can kind of see we're just starting to increase the volume and opportunities up in this area. So that's a concept that's also explained in the report. The next slide. Rainingsville Preserve. I love this one.
Me too.
The park is there in the dark green. The orange areas are homeowner association open spaces. The yellow is township-owned property. And some small areas needed to really take this swath along the creek that has, opportunities for both active and passive recreation, connecting neighborhoods, and really kind of shows that it doesn't take much to start to use little spots that have been, planned out by homeowners associations and combining with what the township actually has. And we know, of course, that it's a lovely space. And so that's what we're calling the Greening's Preserve. And the last preserve, next one, Ryan, is the jungle. Did you all know you had a jungle? You have a jungle in Upper Macungie. It is a very unique, it's listed on the Pennsylvania Natural Heritage Site, wetland area, right down on the southern portion of the township. And it has, it has native species, it has some wetlands. It is a fabulous area that could be managed by Wildlands Conservancy and offer passive trails through it. It certainly is not something that could be built upon because of what it is, but the opportunities to partner with some, professionals like the Wildlands to make that something that could really resonate between Upper Macungie and Lower Macungie in those neighborhoods that are abutting it. But it is called the jungle. Yeah, you can look it up. I guess someone's from the Pennsylvania National Historic Heritage Site, committees. I had no idea where it got that name. When Rob Lauder told me the name of it.
Where is that?
So, that would be a fun sign.
So to give perspective on where this is, if you're on Mosser Road is where the Valley Preferred Cycling Center is, and
Okay.
the
Oh,
solid
right.
blue dotted line is Hamilton Boulevard.
I can show you what you look at it on.
That's what Oh, it's by the cycling preferred park. Okay, where is your walkway there?
South of
Isn't
Hamilton
that owned by
Boulevard.
the Lehigh Towns?
By the who?
Lehigh County?
Yes.
Right, exactly.
That's owned by the Lehigh County, isn't it?
Right. This
Not
is
by
not-
us, not by Upper Macungie
Right,
Township.
But it really represents, and Lehigh County was glad we identified this for Upper Macungie. I think they would like to see some partners take an active interest in it and promote it.
So question, is that new development that's going on there, is that disturbing that? 'Cause it looks
Yeah,
like it
that whole park is Lehigh County Park.
The county was part of some of our focus groups and our key person interviews.
That
Their park and
development
rec
that you're
department.
seeing would have had to have abided by anything regarding wetlands, so it probably did go right up to the limits there.
And just to clarify, because the question, or it's been mentioned, that Rodale Cycling and Fitness Park and Valley Preferred Cycling Center are Lehigh County properties. Lehigh County as an entity and its park and rec department was one of our key person interviews with this park rec open space plan.
It was, right. But it's definitely an interesting interrelationship between those two areas. Next slide. The Butts Park. One of the things we brought up to the committee from the beginning was when we were given a list of Upper Macungie parks. Butts was listed as a park, it's township owned, but it is also, it was an active park, and there's nothing there. So we brought up to the committee, do we really consider this a park? versus really just an unprogrammed open space that the township owns. So again, it gave us the opportunity to combine a couple of things that we've talked about. Acquiring strategic things, taking care of access, giving space for additional active or passive recreation. So this sketch that you're seeing is just a concept, again, with the township land, with land that is, this is orange is the proposed open space. This is a parcel that we would consider acquiring, right, within there. But what we chose to show is how you could fit some nice opportunities for naturalized meadows, for cricket fields, and more ball fields, playgrounds, right? Even we showed just a conceptual parking area. So while I've talked a lot about trails and open space, this is an area where you could really increase the amount of active recreation as needed. We certainly heard a lot about cricket, so we definitely sized that cricket field scaled wise to the parcels that we were talking about. Definitely looking for important pedestrian connections at roadways and into the park as well. So trying to give you a sense of using what we have and adding to it judiciously so that we can have what you will need. This is just an idea. There might be things that's needed that's for the township having one.
Is this the park behind the VFW on Butts Road?
Yes, it's open, there's nothing there, it's not park,
Right,
it's
it's
just,
a field, yeah.
it's a field, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So while we're not calling it a bus park now, maybe it could be when we have these types of facilities in the future.
And then discussion for a long, long time.
Next slide. Right, now it's your turn to ask me questions if there's anything specific. Right now, you have in front of you a list of all of the recommendations and the visions. And there are 4 visions, and each one has anywhere from 4 to 7 or 8 recommendations on them. Maybe my suggestion would be to go through them and in light of the report as well, there's a little bit, like I said, each recommendation has its own page with a write-up to say why, what we're thinking along those lines for that recommendation. Maybe some are missing in your mind that we should add. Maybe there are some that should be reworded, some that need more emphasis or less emphasis. But that's the kind of feedback that we'd be looking for from the board as we meet with the steering committee in the beginning of May. So I ask you to take a look at it. If there's any questions, I'm happy to hang around tonight. But I can kind of show you from here where we go. Look at that. Of course, the first vision is accessibility and aligning with the public opinion survey is getting people safely to the parks. Definitely 1.1 really resonated. So that is using the visa to get people to the park safely. And then there's 7 more underneath that vision of accessibility. Vision 2 is the programming recommendations, and there's 5 of them. Vision 3 is abundant and quality open space. Promote healthy community environment. And there's 6 recommendations under it. And the last one is basically, we determined it all, and we appreciated Brian and the committee's insight into these visions because we use those for the structure. As you can see, what the goals and objectives are. We want this to be something that Ryan and staff and you folks use continually. And having all that information on one page we thought helped kind of see it and have it all condensed in that format. So the vision 4 is premier parks and open space system for generations to come, meaning something the township can manage well with its resources and its staff. So nobody wants to have dreams that exceed our budgets and it's, get people set up for, dashed expectations. So, a measured approach to how this thing rolls out. will be up to the township over the next 10 or 15 years, really. 20 years is really what the life of this plan is going to be. So, next slide, I'd like to kind of tell you what 8 people said. 8 people responded. The first question is, what were you happy to see? And there is 5 great comments. Overall community interest and involvement, the cricket field, they're glad that it was shown and talked about. Repair and upkeep of park elements and open space preservation, they were glad to see that. Trails and land conservation efforts. And one of our recommendations in the report is an extension to Lone Lane Park. So take a look at that in the analysis and the recommendations. Wish I had seen. One woman was very complimentary. Hers is one of the comments on the right side. But she loves to run in parks and would love to see more like loops in
Yes.
parks. And she put that her 30-year-old legs are getting tired, so she doesn't want asphalt. She would love to see something other than asphalt. But great comment, very specific. Wish she had seen addressing unsafe walking conditions to parks. I was kind of sad to see that because I thought we spent a lot of time saying that's what the VZAP did. But that was a comment. How to improve turf quality at fields and parks. That was a comment. And it was actually a comment by one of our committee members, Mike Szynski, who has been very passionate and so faithful to the meetings. And so it was something I know that's dear to his heart. And then there was just one specific item about Shantz Road and Lone Lane Park traffic that they had wished we had addressed. That's, that drills down very specific. So that's fine. But other comments, this is all very impressive. Thank you for your work. Thank you for everyone's hard work, and I bring that to the board especially. My family and I love living in Upper Macungie and appreciate everyone's efforts to continue to make it a great place to live. Well, last comment. So Brian, I have to tell you who this comment is from. This is from a gentleman named Ron Cope, who was the executive director of the Wildlands Conservancy, and he was one of our key person interviews. And so I sent all of our key person interviews a link to the draft plan, and his comment was comprehensive study with a good framework for future improvements and expansion. So overall, that was really gratifying because he certainly does a lot, and he's just recently retired. So he sent this in from his personal email, but I recognized his name, so I thought you would like to see that, because we would love to do a lot with Wildlands Conservancy. I think they're chomping at the bit to work with Upper Macungie and all of you folks. So, next slide. This is where I totaled the priorities. So if you look at your list, it's only 8 responses, but the overall winner, number of times mentioned of the top 5, was 3.2. So definitely the open space category. That's what was the biggest. But there was 3 of the 8 gave something from each of the divisions. So I totaled up what the most popular one with each division was. 1.1, the VZAP, pedestrian access. Division 2, 2.5, and I believe that's the pool feasibility study. That was mentioned quite a bit, different meetings, public meetings. Division 3, 3.2, the winner was, encouraging the preservation of open space. And Vision 4.2, work with conservation partners such as Wildland Conservancy. So, interesting. So that's kind of the summary of what we heard this weekend from the few people that left comments. And the rest of the comments are going to come from the steering committee, from you, and from the staff and supervisors. And then we'll wrap it up and present it back for approval to the township. And that is it. Is there anything else I can answer or help you find?
My comment is, it took me like 60 pages to figure out what the heck solid dome meant.
Sorry. I think when I wrote the report, probably
I
said it in the very
had
first.
8 acronyms, and perhaps it could be a glossary page of acronyms.
Good, that's a very good suggestion. Yeah, solid stands for, I'm sorry.
Because, I'm terrible with acronyms. I think repeatedly it's just kind of, I find them annoying. It's like, wait, what the heck is that? I've got to go back to figure out what it stood for.
Right.
So I found that kind of annoying. And there's no mention of my repeated request for budget.
To be quite honest, and I thought I'd gone through many of them, but like, absolutely, it doesn't ring a bell in there, April. So
I do like the presentation much more than the read.
thank you. But yeah, I think the acronym page would work. It's SADO is subdivision and land development ordinances. But yeah, you type it once and you're ready. UMT, you guys are all familiar with, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's probably worth adding that. It's a great idea. Noted. Anyone else?
I think it's a great job. Appreciate what you guys did.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that. Great. So we will keep in touch with Ryan and let you all know. There'll be a page of what changes or how we address the comments. But it'll be most important, of course, coming from you folks as steering committee and the key person stakeholders. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more public comment? Okay, with that, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Second by April. All those in favor? Aye. All right.